receive at any veterinary school is that the cool thing about our profession, I think, is you have so many different ways that you can go. And if you could go through it through your entire 4 years thinking you're gonna go one direction, and then you have an aha moment one day and your whole plan changes, so, and you can totally do that.
And you study everything. So like Samantha and Emily and Justin right now and last semester they did cats and dogs, and now you're doing horses, goats, cows, pigs, and chickens. So you get
for anatomy.
Everything. Yeah, that's just for anatomy.
So within your first 2 years, you learn relatively like 8 species, and then you can kind of go from there. But we have shirts, I think that's what would say like real doctors like treat more than one species, because we do like a lot.
So what about zoo vets?
Yeah, so like
is it extra? Like how much extra? Or
there's not a lot of formal training for that, but you don't have you're not required to do additional work. It's a lot of learning on the job that you do. There are internships and residencies specifically in that to be board certified in that sort of thing, but a lot of people who work on exotic animals just kind of learn it as they go.
And you seek out your own experience. Like that's something you want to do. You start shaking hands and taking down names and numbers and stuff from people that's what you'd like to do. Because you're gonna have to seek out those opportunities and say, teach me. Because basically the people you're gonna be looking for are, if not pioneers, are like some of the first of. In that, I mean, those types of specialties are pretty competitive and pretty small.
Yeah, and I've talked to like people like advisors and stuff about fourth year, if you're interested in doing that, they'll work around your schedule and give you like an extra rotation in Zoom Ed or provide you with like externship resources.
And you can do now, they have, it used to be, there were, after your second year, you track. Okay, so you do an emphasis in either large animal, small animal, or mixed. That was always traditionally the thing. A&M now has an alternative track option. So if you're interested in zoo medicine, if you're interested in laboratory animal medicine, if you're interested in aquatic, those type of things, you can do a more specialized, it's kind of self-directed to a point, but it helps. I mean, everybody's required to take the same base classes, but as far as your electives and stuff go, you can track one way or the other and take extra classes in whatever focus you're interested in.
There's also a lot of clubs that you'll join once you're in vet school that will focus on what you want to do. If you like repro, there's a theoryology club, there's Zoo Med club, and a lot of professors, doctors, DVMs will come and give presentations at those, and that's where you learn people. You go up to them and say, hey, I'm really interested in this, what can I do to help that? So really whatever you want to do, you're going to be able to do. You're going to get a core background on the most important things, and then it's up to you to decide what you want to do with it.
I think they had a guy last semester come in and talk about primate medicine for Zoo Club. That was really interesting.
If you're trying to get into a place like A&M, what would be some good things to be doing now?
Yeah. Well,
Just go see them.
That's a big question. Okay, so here's I guess I'll head right into it. This is my soapbox, all right? This is one of the main reasons that I really was gonna make sure that come hell or high water I was gonna be here with you guys tonight. One of the things that I feel like that let me start on the positive here, okay? One thing that I feel like that you guys are getting more so than other programs or schools out there, including A&M from what I can see, is that our department preaches daily for you to get involved. Get your hands on it. Get dirty. Get out there. Get Dr. Kelly. How many times have y'all heard Dr. Kelly say, y'all just had the back to school social the other night, right? That in August they've got the when we're welcoming everybody in, and Dr. Kelly every single year for 6 years I heard him say, do not let the classroom get in the way of your education. Okay, that's what we preach here, right? Get out there and actually do something, right? So there's a lot of leadership in this room. There's a lot of people that know how to get out there and shake hands with people and make really awesome connections, and that does really, really well for you, okay? And so you're gonna get in. If you want it, you'll get in. I promise, all right? If you can can apply yourself, and I know there's a lot of determination and a lot of discipline in this room to do it. The problem that I have, the thing that I feel like is lacking, is that we do not preach enough in our program, and this is kind of something I think I already kind of started this conversation with you, is the academic classes that you need to get involved in. No, it is not required that you take histology or physiology or anatomy or immuno or any of those classes. But God damn it, if you can do it, get in it.
Definitely do, because that's where I struggled last semester.
Yeah, seriously. There are so many classes that I'll ask you to kind of give me an idea of what you actually did take, but like at A&M, they do take those classes within their BIMS programs, biomedical science, so it's like the minor, or the major that they take, the degree that they take. Yes?
Would you mind looking into this classes again?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's physiology, anatomy.
Anatomy with the lab.
Yeah, with the lab. This is stuff y'all are gonna have to go to the bio department to take, okay? Histology, if there's a immunology class, take that too. These are all classes, I'll say them again, it's not a big deal, but basically what I'm saying is that the first time that I got exposed to them, the first time that Emily got exposed to them was this past semester. And I'm gonna tell you, I told you guys, the ones y'all, how many of y'all went to the tour last semester when y'all were there? And I was there with you, right? And I was telling you I was the president of the class. Well, not anymore, okay? I didn't get a D, and I didn't get an F. I missed it by like 0.1 something or something like that. I don't know, I've calculated it several times and I keep forgetting what it is. But I had to get you had to get a 2.5 to keep any kind of officer position. You gotta make a 2.0 to stay in. I made that fine, but I didn't make a 2.5. So two Fridays ago, I had to stand up in front of 134 people and tell them why I was no longer gonna be their president. We had to hold officer elections again, okay? I put myself in a leadership position because that's what I've always done. I can't help it. Like, I wanna get out there, I wanna encourage people, I wanna use my hands the best way I know how, I wanna find a niche and I wanna do my job well and I wanna do it excellently. The problem was I wasn't prepared for what I was getting into because I hadn't been exposed to those classes, okay? Every A&M student that's in that program has been exposed to those classes before they came. It's not necessarily that they're better students than you are, it's just that they were given tools that were different and that were much more useful for them for their first semester and their first year overall. And the first 2 years will be your hardest year, okay? So now that I'm better prepared, you bet your ass I'm gonna make the grades that I need to this semester. I'm gonna make way above a 3.0 this semester. I know I will. I know I'm gonna do fine, but I didn't learn that until late enough in the semester. I didn't learn how to do that until I just couldn't make the headway after that. I made some really good progress over the semester, made some really great grades that I was proud of at the end of the semester, but they weren't enough to cover up what I started with, okay? So that's gonna be the first thing I would say that you need to do to prepare yourself for that, okay? Start
Let
getting
me
those
take one more
classes.
pause. If you're a senior or a junior, and you're now freaking out because you didn't take these classes, we made it through. You're gonna make it through. It's just, you're gonna have an easier time on yourself if you can take these classes for all the younger, people that have more, have in your schedule to take these. You need to take them, 100%.
Yeah.
But don't freak out, don't not apply to vet school because you're now thinking that you won't get in.
And look at,
We all tried.
right, and look at
So,
all of
you
us
will
up here
too.
too, like, if you get in there and you're like, oh my God, like, look, I need some help, like, we've all been there, we've all
Oh,
been
yeah.
through the trenches, like, obviously, we're gonna help out our fellow Bearcat and get in there and say, don't worry, you're not alone, like, and you'll find people that you can get hooked up with and start studying with and stuff like that. When I started realizing that I needed help, that's how I found this kid. I hooked up with somebody in the class that I knew that was making A's and acing everything without even really having a pulse.
That's the difference
what?
too.
The problem with the anatomy class is that it's very accelerated. So it's a lot of information and it's a lot of information really fast. And that's what gets a lot of people
Right.
is
Just
it's
overwhelming.
hard to keep up with every class and with all the information in the class.
Nothing that they will teach you in vet school is hard.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
It's just
exactly.
a lot of
And
stuff.
even
Oh, so yeah, and
the undergrad classes are harder than the vet school classes because everything is so focused in vet school. So the first, like, a semester of physiology in undergrad is everything that you learn in the 2 semesters that you take of physiology in vet school. Everything is just more focused and you spend more time on stuff. So it's actually easier in vet school. But if you've never heard it before, it's hard to get a lot of the concepts down.
yeah, and that's always been another thing I've always preached before I came here, is that given it, I feel like that anybody can learn anything, like an able mind, if you put your mind to it, like the determination will get you through. Like I've always said, like I know I'm not the smartest person in my class, I made a 4.0 in my master's, okay? But I've never, ever, ever been the smartest person in my class. I just want it bad enough that I'll get there. You just watch me, I'll get there. the thing is, that like he said, it's just overwhelming. And so given an infinite amount of time, anybody can learn an infinite amount of material, but we don't have that anymore. Like it's like one of the first things I think they tell you when you get in is that, okay, it's kind of like drinking from a fire hose. One, it's a lot of volume really fast, and two, you're not going to get it all. So it's just one of those things that you've got, and I don't say this to freak you out, I don't say this to scare you, I more so want to prepare you for what's coming so that you'll learn from my mistakes, because when I was, honestly, crying in the dean's office at the end of last semester, because when I calculated my own grades and knew what I was coming up to, and I said, look, I don't want you to have to, like, come find me, I'm going to beat you to the punch, like, we need to talk about this, like, we're going to have to work on this. And the one thing that I came to a conclusion of was like, okay, like, I made a mistake, I got myself in a hole, but at least I can try to benefit somebody else with it. So that's why I tell you these things now, is to try to get you the leg up that I didn't have, you know, that I didn't realize was there, which is okay, I'm fine with it, because I've got fire underneath me now to be like, I'm gonna get it. Like, there's no way it's gonna get away from me. But yeah, so I don't say these things to freak you out. I say it more to you know, give you that encouragement that we're here and we're aware of it. And
Yeah, and also, like, grades are important, like, to get in, but another thing I struggled with is, like, I hate C's, like, but, like, last semester, like, I struggled, I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna make a C, I'm so upset at myself, and you just gotta let that go. It's like, C equals DBM. Once you get in, just, as long as you're learning the information, like, don't forget about grades, because then it's gonna pull you down. So, worry about grades right now.
And then, okay.
I'm sorry. Do you have any tips on like taking the GRE?
So, have you done it yet?
No.
Okay, I would go ahead, I'm sorry.
You go right ahead, girl.
One of the things that I'm going to say, the GRE, like, honestly, don't let it be a monster, okay? Like, the first thing I would do is, if you want to get one of those prep books, that's fine. I think the first time I took the GRE, I was on the old scale, so y'all, this might not make sense to you, but I got a 10-10 the first time around, and I think I studied for 2 hours off of that book. And pretty much all I did was look at the logic skills of it. The second time I got an 1100, and that was all, I only took it 2 times, and I studied maybe like 5 hours on that book total or whatever before I took it. It wasn't that big of a deal. I honestly don't spend a lot of time on it, like, just make it efficient or whatever you're gonna do. Like, I did both of mine during the summer. I did one before I got into my master's program because I needed it for my master's, and then I did another one when before it was due for my application. So, but I would just go ahead and just be willing just to say, and with the help, like, just if you can afford to do it twice, which I can't even remember how much it is. It's like $60.
No.
It's like 100 something. Oh, is it?
I'm not good at standardized tests, especially on a computer. I'm just not. I'm not good at Scantrons. Like, I circle one thing on my thing, and I fill in a bubble on another one. So I have good stuff. I'm like, I really did put the right answer. I just didn't fill in the right answer. I'm just not good at it. I took a prep test. My parents paid a lot of money for them little CDs that I had to do every single night. God, it sucked. Oh my God, it sucked so bad. And they guaranteed that it would increase your score, might increase 10 points. But it increased it, so you can get your money back. I'm not joking. I made a 10-10 on the first one, a 10-20 on the second one. But my GPA, I graduated, I got C's now in vet school, but I graduated with is that what, magna cum laude, the second one, whatever it was, you know, honor society, did all that kind of stuff. The way that they do so to get into vet school, they're going to put you on a scale. If you reach a certain number, you get an interview, okay? All those people above that number are going to get an interview. Then you have to go through the interview, and we'll discuss what the interview's like. So they add your GPA, like your science GPA, overall GPA in last 45 hours, and then they're going to add your score for your GRE together to make one number, and then they're going to put on a graph. And if you're higher than, you know, this number, you get an interview. So I studied my ass off in undergrad, and I made really good grades in undergrad, so that when I took that GRE and I made a 10-10 and then I made a 10-20, I'm like, you know, I'm not going to make higher than that. I'm not good at it, so I'm not going to do it again. I'm not going to spend that $100 and whatever just to be in that damn classroom, big ass things on your head, and other people are scribbling.
You still mad about that?
God, I hate that.
Yeah, like, if you really can't afford to take it more than once, I would say do it, because like the first time, I was kind of like, I didn't know what I was up against either, and I was like, well, and I just needed something, because at that point, like I said, the first time I took it, I went for the master's part of it, not because I needed it for vet school, because I needed it for my master's. And all I needed to get into the master's program was like, I think 1,000 or something like that. So I was like, what the hell, we'll see what happens. And so I just went in to see, because I could do that. And then I, waited the full year and then did it again. And so that was kind of helpful for me. But I wouldn't focus on it too bad. It is a part of it, but it isn't. Yeah.
I was told in undergrad that if you did not make above a 1030 on the jury, you were not going to be accepted to Texas A&M University, and I'm here to tell you that is not true. So don't let it. That's what I'm saying. Don't believe that, because it's not true.
There's so many other parts.
There are study guides, like she said. I mean, you go to Barnes and Noble, wherever you buy a book. CD apparently are available as well. Was it Kaplan Review? They do courses.
I think it was Kaplan.
I mean, you're talking, I don't know, $700, $800, $900 to attend those courses. And Sam Houston does a free one.
Yep.
Yeah.
So keep your eyes open for that. There is a free GRE prep course.
I think there is something you need to know. You don't need to go in it completely blind. I mean, they'll tell you like how the GRE works. Like, and I think you need to know that. Like, if you get a question right, you get a harder question that's worth more points, and you get a harder question. But once you get those wrong, they go back to easier questions, which are worth a lot less. So
It's a lot, by the way, the test thinks while you're taking it.
yeah.
So it doesn't matter who you are and how much of a genius you are, you will come across questions, the smartest person in the world will come across questions that is difficult for them to answer, because the test thinks while you're thinking. So it takes your feedback as you answer questions correctly or incorrectly and poses you with an opposing question to where you're going. So don't freak out about that kind of thing. That's what the kind of stuff that I think helped me on it when I studied for it, was I studied like the logic of it. Like, okay, this is how that test works. So this is what you're going to want to do.
And see, I was complete opposite of that, because whenever I had a question, and then I had a harder question, and then the next question wasn't as hard anymore, I knew I just missed that question.
Yeah, you know.
And I was like, dang it, I just missed that question. And then I started getting nervous about it. Like, right. And then I started overanalyzing what the test was taking. And if I can kind of step aside though, and they were talking about, what it takes to get in and that sort of thing. Let me tell you my story, because it is not all about grades at all.
No.
Okay? I took organic chemistry 1 and 2 each 3 times. Okay? First time dropped it, second time failed it, and third time made a C. In both of them. Okay? I turned around and did fine with, I got A's in both biochemistries after that. I got into my vet school interview, and that was one of the, I got an interview to vet school, and I got into vet school, okay? Sometimes it takes determination to show them what you can do. So if you have an F on your transcript, if you've retaken a class and you're worried about that, boost other areas that can impress them.
You took like 4 classes.
I was in the student government here. I was an officer in the student government. I ran this club. I worked 2 full-time jobs while I was in the school here at SAM. They look at all of that. All of that.
And so that's what I was saying, like, there's a lot of things that y'all have in your pocket and you don't necessarily realize because of, like I said, where we're coming from, that you're taught a lot of leadership here. Like, you might not see it now, but you're taught a ton of leadership here and how to get involved and get out there that is incredibly valuable to you and will just put you so far above and beyond when you get into your professional program. When, not if, but when. But that's the thing.
If you make a D in micro, if you take micro from Dr. Prim and you fail it, or and you go, oh my God, how am I ever going to go to vet school because I'm obviously an idiot? You're not. This just plain and simple, you're not.
Did they ask you about those specific grades, like during your interview?
No,
On
they
your
can't.
application interview, during the interview, you don't
Yeah.
talk about grades. They don't even have your application in front of them. Once you get to the interview, you start all over
So
again.
how many of y'all know what the MMI is? Okay, because the interviews have changed, by the way. They're not, so a behavioral interview is what they used to do, and that stopped right before, the last class to have it was class of 2014, so like the graduated class of 2014. They were the first year to do it, we were the second year to do the MMI. A behavioral interview is what you've seen in, like, what you've heard of, the stereotypical, like, so tell us about a time when you failed, or like, tell us about your biggest flaw,
Pretty much
whatever.
a really easy way to
30
dig a hole
minutes.
for yourself.
Yeah, it's 30 minutes, and you have like at least a panel of 3 people or whatever sitting in front of you, and you've got like this like really hot spotlight that's on you and everything. Okay, no, I'm not kidding. Anyway, but that's the idea of the behavioral interview, okay, where they look at those types of
And they
things.
still do that
At
elsewhere.
other schools, yeah, but they don't do that at A&M was, I think, one of the very first vet schools to actually implement it. The medical school realm field has been doing it for some time now. It's the McMaster's, the multiple mini interviews that developed by McMaster's University.
It's like speed dating.
Yeah.
Because you go from room to room to room to room, and they ask you really quick questions, and you have a short amount of time to respond.
6
Okay,
minutes is
so
not a short amount
you,
of time.
on the outside of the door, you're gonna stand in front of a door, and it's gonna have a prompt for you about anything, something vet related. They're never gonna ask you how to cure an animal, they're never gonna ask you any kind of science, anything like that. It's gonna be more, ethical
That-
stuff.
You can look up the MMI and it will tell you that the questions, it doesn't matter what industry, because the engineering industry uses it too. Everybody uses the same type of questions. Ethical reasoning, logical thinking, compassion and there was another ethics point or some, morals, things like that. Anything, it's based inside of your realm of like, somebody walks into the clinic, but they could say that like somebody walks into a doctor's office or into like an engineering firm or something like that. It doesn't matter. The atmosphere is not important. It's how you handle the situation. So they want to basically see that you have the personal skills.
So you get a prompt on the outside of the door. When they tell you to go, you're gonna lift up a sheet so that you can't see it. You're gonna look at it. You're gonna have something to write on. You can write what your response is gonna be. You get like, what, 4 minutes or something? A minute to do that. And then, but a minute, honestly, I mean, if we sat here in silence for a minute, you see how long a minute is.
I think you have a minute to read it, 2 minutes to prep, and then you have 6 minutes in the room.
Yeah, you go in there and they're going, I feel like that's something that I learned at St. Houston. I immediately went up and I shook their hand and I said, hi, my name is Kayla, how are you doing? I've heard some people didn't even, they just immediately sat down, they're like, okay. So you're trying to be personable with them. They're gonna prompt you, say, did you look over the question? And you'll say yes, and you'll start answering what you think about it. You'll be really nervous.
They won't give you facial feedback at all because they're not supposed to. Like, they're not supposed to nod or like, oh, okay, or smile or anything because they can't coax you in a direction because technically they could be encouraging you in a negative or positive. They don't want to push you in any direction. So they sit there very stark-faced and like stare at you the whole time.
But if you don't say anything, they're gonna say, well, what do you think about this?
Yeah, they have like follow-up questions.
They have questions. They're not gonna let you sit there and not say anything.
I used all 6 of my minutes in every single room.
Yeah, I did too. And if you finish quickly, and you don't,
talked a lot?
They'll start asking you some other things about yourself, like, why do you want to be in vet school, or what do you want to do? Like just nothing like, well, she wants to be a small animal vet. So they don't knock that kind of stuff. But so you come out of the room, you go, and then you walk next to the next door, and you do the same thing over again. So if you just went in that room and bawled your eyes out, the person in the room next to that has no idea. So you can clean your face up. This didn't happen to me. Hypothetically. You can clean yourself up, take a deep breath, and you start all over with a whole new question. And you do it 6 times, and they're going to add those all together.
During these exams, are you